within the precincts of Parliament, and this is through the Senate Select Committee there, chaired by Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. We're also following in the middle, where the Joint Committee of Trade as well as Agriculture are still probing matters contraband sugar. That is happening also within the National Assembly. And then finally, NYS suspects are still in court following matters status conference in regards to the case against them. So we shall be crossing over to these developing stories as they happen. I believe we're listening in right now to the Solai Dam tragedy, where that particular probe is still going on.
If they do not have a voice, we are speaking on their behalf. So the lawyer cannot come in here and tell us that we only focus about the 48 people who have died and we've left the people who are alive. We are looking at the interest of all the Kenyans who are there.
You've actually hit the nail on the head. You've said that if one gathers something in his compound and it gets out, you're talking about Rylands and Fletcher, the famous case of Rylands and Fletcher. So we're talking about liability here. This is not the forum for liability. The forum for liability under our constitution is the judiciary. Allow our judiciary to deal with that.
Chair, we had specific questions. The lawyer said he's willing to answer those specific questions. I think let's get to that. Let's not be distracted by, because we'll be derailed by other matters that are not before us. Let's go to the specific questions we asked for as a committee and get responses on those.
Now, can I guide these proceedings, Mr. Munari? First,
we have answered some of your questions. And can I have hand over some of the documents so that...
Sorry?
We've answered some of your questions in writing.
I'm going to get to that in a short while. In terms of your objection, the rule under Subjudice 95 is very clear. And the reason why I asked specific questions from Mr. Perry Mansuk is that ideally, what is in contention is an issue in court. Unless you have presented that issue, there's no question of subjudice. Subjudice only applies when you present those cases to us and you demonstrate that there is an issue in contention about what we have asked. That is the reason I just posed the question to Mr. Perry Mansuk. Is your license or lack of it in dispute? Is the ownership of a dam in dispute? We are fact-finding mission. So, Mr. Munari, I'm going to tell you and advise you that you're not helping Mr. Mansuk, because we have no intention of taking over the role of the judiciary. None whatsoever. We know where the judiciary is. We have no intention of prosecuting Mr. Mansuk Patel. None at all. We know where that happens. So we were only making certain inquiries, not because the information is not available to us. This document here consists of licenses, consists of applications that you have made. All you need to do, and all you needed to do, is confirm you applied, for example, to have a weir to divert 50 cubic meters of water during normal days, and divert 2,000 cubic meter of water during flood situations. All you needed is that confirmation. Number two, confirm that the reports we have, that you constructed this dam without a contractor. That is information. If you don't want to confirm, that's fine. We cannot force you to do so. But as we speak, we have no record of anything that is sub judice. And we will not get into the merit of statements of witnesses, contested issues. That's not our business.
Chair, can we go to the substance of our questioning?
So, Mr. Mansuk, please, if you can answer the queries we have raised, you can take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, deal with the issues. The questions about victims, whether you are a victim, you have a very good platform where you can mitigate anything you want. Very good platform to mitigate that you are a victim, boulders were coming down, whatever. But for our purposes, we want to stick to the line called fact. What are the issues? When did you start this work? so that we can determine, for purposes of the Senate, the issues that have been raised by the victims.
Mr. Chairman, we don't want to appear like we don't want to be cooperative, and Mr. Mansuk is going to talk to you and this committee on the history and circumstances. If we appear that we were a bit aggressive, please don't misunderstand us.
You know, we have worked with you, Munari. We know you. we understand you. That's why I told you you're not helping Mr. Mansuk.
So
you're not helping him. He was
like
very nice.
Sakadi, yeah. Let's get into the meat
Yes.
of business. Yeah.
Give him the microphone.
But it will be on certain lines
Yeah,
that
yeah.
do not deal with other issues. You can imagine what we are facing out there. There is a person filing a suit every hour in Naivasha or Nakuru. There are lawyers from London who are here to file suits.
But how can you complain about it, Mr. Munari? That means you have legal work to do.
It's not just that.
That should not be a complaint from
Okay.
you. Mr. Mansuk,
Yes, sir.
take the floor.
Mr. Chair, may I say something?
Yes.
Your
please-
letter, my name is Masinde.
Yes.
Yes, your letter.
And
dated-
don't take us back to the
No, no, no,
objection
I
by
will-
your senior.
I will not. Your letter dated 9th July 2018 has 8 items that this committee is making inquiries about. So it's my humble request, therefore, that is it in order that we move, item from item 1 to 8 so that we move a bit faster?
You have just repeated what I've just said. Give Mr. Mansuk the opportunity to go item by item, answer those questions. If you have something in writing, so much the better.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you
Yes.
very much, Senators, Chair. Thank you so much. I am now at your disposal. Please, sir. Would you like me to answer
Yes,
each
yes,
point?
yes.
I'll begin with A, sir. Ownership and management of the Solai farm.
Could you please circulate the document? And I hope you're prepared also to answer a few questions.
Yes, sir. I'll
Thank you.
just begin.
Proceed.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will start again, sir. A, ownership and management of the Solai farm. The ownership of the Solai farm, the said farm is Milmet Estate, belongs to Ken Salt Limited, and the management is done by myself and my team of managers, sir. Yes, sir. May I proceed to the next one, your permission?
We will stop you when we think
Okay,
you
sir.
should
So
not proceed.
sorry,
please.
I'm not aware, so I will continue.
Proceed, yes.
B, activities undertaken at the farm. The commercial activities that we undertake at the farm, sir, are the planting and cultivation of coffee, of tea, of dairy farming. That means allied activities such as silage for preparation of fodder, grass or hay farming, again for fodder purposes. We also have a macadamia farm, sir, and we grow roses for export, sir. C, number of dams on the farm. The large dams we have are 3 dams on the farm, sir. D, licenses issued for the development and management of the farm. Sir, we have all of the licenses for the development of the farm, and we have been running within all the premise of the law, and we have been keeping all the various apparatus of state notified and informed, and we've also had a total open door policy, Madam and Sir, to ensure that there is total transparency. We are up to date with all of our payments on licenses. People are visiting us and they're most welcome at all times, and they continue to be, sir, most welcome, because we've been part and parcel of the society, as I said, and we plan to continue to engage government, both national, local, and to engage our people who are so dear to me. I think you may know, sir, that I've grown up there, and I think you're aware of the feelings people have for me, and I also have for them. So we want to stay within the premise always of the law. We are humble servants of this country, sir. E, circumstances leading to the Solai Dam tragedy. Sir, if I may, sadly, the amount of deforestation that has taken place upstream on land that does not belong to us is enormous. I mean, I would beg you to please consider this. The wanton destruction of forests, of our habitat, the Kenyan habitat, has been enormous. People have cut every form of tree. They have farmed on hills, riverine areas, riparian areas. We have tried our best, and I know that you've visited our farm, and I'm thankful for that, sir. You've seen the amount of trees we've planted. Since I started working on the farm, I made sure that tree planting is very close to my heart and still remains. We planted all forms of trees to make sure that we could do best what we could in our area for our farm, our people. And unfortunately, this kind of deforestation has led to loose soils. Massive torrents of water came on that day, together with boulders which are enormity, massive, sir, and tree stumps which you cannot get your arms around. The girth, the age may be perhaps 150, 200 years old, which have been cut recently and died, so the roots can no longer hold the soil, and they came tumbling down together in a huge deluge, and there was no way, sir, at all that anything could hold that. I mean, if you see the landscape, sir, it's strewn with boulders, as I said, the size of...
The management of the Solai Dam appearing now before the Senate Select Committee chaired by Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. We shall cross over there just to follow how that goes. Earlier on, we've also seen Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui appear before that. We've also seen the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nudin Haji, on the very same. Time to talk about matters, crisis communications, and a lot that you need to know, all the way from managing government institutions to your personal level on how you should communicate in the event of a crisis. Now, the Camera Africa consultants as well as Riara University have come together to bring a crisis communications management workshop, one of its kind. Joining me right now is James Mburu, who's a media research specialist with Camera Africa Consultants, as well as Dr. Francis Onditi, Dean School of International Relations at the Riara University. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Crisis communication, at the very least, or rather simplest form, what is it?
Crisis, you need to begin by defining what is a crisis. A crisis is a situation that has occurred in a society, and it needs to be handled in the best way possible. Now, this situation might have affected an individual, or it can affect an institution. Now, the communication aspect, how do you communicate this crisis without scaring the investors, and at the same time, without losing public trust and confidence?
Maybe Dr. Nditi, you can add to that.
Yeah, I would say this. This is a great moment. I mean, Camera Africa and Riara University joining together to provide an intervention that this country has been looking for a long time. That is trying to see how to leverage on our counties. Whenever there is a crisis in this country, we've seen all manner of, negativities coming out, even in situations when it would have been managed in a better way, coming out very negatively. So the partnership that Riara University and Camera Africa is bringing forward to train county officials, it's something that I think all of us need to support because it's going to come out strongly to transform our counties into positive development as opposed to managing communication or crisis that comes out very negatively quite often. So it's a great thing that we are trying to bring forward.
And we shall come to the specifics of the workshop, but of more recent developments, for instance, when government institutions were appearing before Parliament in regards to the contraband sugar, one department, Interior, says different information. We've also seen the Industrialization Ministry saying something else in contradiction to KEBS, and this is part of what you describe as crisis. Where do you think government went wrong in terms of managing the contraband sugar probe?
I think one of the mistakes that they made is that there was no command center to ensure that information is being delivered by one entity. Because when you have the Ministry of Industrialization giving a conflicting report from another ministry, I mean, automatically you are losing public confidence and trust. what we need, they ought to have actually put in place a command center where there is only one means of communication. That way, you address a lot of rumors. The other way is that even hiring sometimes social media experts who can actually come on board, and they can be able to track, for instance, on social media, what rumors are being spread, and these rumors, how damaging are they, all right? And you need to come out and own the problem instead of actually denying it, because the more you deny, at the end of the day, you're serving the public.
Okay. Maybe Dr. Nditi, as you look at it, what are some of the consequences when it comes to contradicting information as opposed to one linear kind of communication from government?
When the government sectors or government sections don't have a coherent communication strategy, you can imagine the negativities that comes out in a situation that would have not mounted to a crisis. It actually becomes a crisis. You will agree with me that in many circumstances, we've actually had to deal with consequences of a very limited challenge, getting into a bigger magnitude that would have been handled if there was coherence, coordination of information, and perhaps just as my colleague said, having a central way of communicating and relaying this information to the public. Because with the emergence of digital media, people are able to access information. But I think the challenge for professionals, especially those who are working for the government and other sectors, is how do you make sure that this information gets people the right time, all right? And at the same time, making sure that the information is not actually distorted. And I think that is what Camera Africa and Riara University is collaborating to intervene, so that like the Solai Dam and other situations that we've experienced in this country, we're going to have a coordinated approach.
And Dr. Nditi, you've pointed out to the era of digital communication and platforms, but it has also come with one other challenge, that is fake news. How do you deal with that?
I think everybody needs to focus on facts. If the media, and it's good that Camera Africa and Riara University, we are coming up with this initiative. If we can help Kenyans to focus on facts, be in a position to be objective, that is the media, in the way they report, and just doing some homework to ensure that whatever information we want Kenyans to consume is information that it's going to give to liberate them, as opposed to binding them into some kind of fakeness. I think that will solve this problem that this country is experiencing.
Definitely, fake news is something that counties are dealing with, because it's very easy for any kind of information right now to reach the masses. How can they tackle this as a challenge, James?
I mean, one of the ways is actually to hire professionals who can actually operate your social media account. And there are two key tools. One of them is called TweetDeck, and another one is called Hootsuite, that you can actually use to track the hashtags that are being spread across the country. Now, once you know the rumors which are being spread on social media, you have a huge responsibility to come forward and use your followers to spread the truth about a particular tragedy. Because one of the mistakes that we have seen in this country is people denying something and the effect spreads across. So we want people to own, and they are supposed to own it and respond immediately whenever a crisis hits.
And for instance, speaking of denying something, then perhaps later on confirming, is a common thing that we've seen amongst politicians as well. What kind of effects does it have on an individual's brand?
I mean, at the end of the day, you lose credibility and integrity. Because today you're saying this, the other time you're saying this. At the end of the day, people are likely to conclude that you have no principles. You should stick by principles, and these principles, they need to be guided by facts. But the best thing is you're supposed to have a competent research team that can be able to enable you to give you the right information so that you can actually communicate the right things with the public. Because the danger of that, you lose public trust, and most importantly, you scare investors. I mean, for instance, we have seen what politics of personality has done to this country. Yeah, I mean, especially during elections. Each time there is an election, you hear someone has said something which could actually affect the economy of this country, and you automatically scare away the investors. Once you scare investors, there is no employment. People need to eat, they need to to educate their families.
Maybe you can add more on that, Dr. Nditi, on the communications of personal individuals, especially those from the political class, giving a statement and then retracting it later.
I think one of the things that it's important when it comes to interpersonal relations would be what kind of impact would misconstrued information do to the entire team? Let's take, for example, at the county level. We are talking about multi-layered structures within the counties.
Yeah.
We are talking about the relation between the county governors and senators. We're talking about the relation between the senators and the other officials and politicians and professionals. Now, if information is not clearly delayed, clearly designed, and clearly conveyed, you are likely to create the levels of conflict, interpersonal conflict, and even organizational conflict are likely to go high.
Yeah.
Now, I think the purpose of this training, or rather this capacity building initiative for us, is actually to try and fix that. How do we fix it? We want to look at, identify some of the areas that could be a challenge. For example, where do conflicts come from? Of course, one of the major sources is the way communication is relayed. Do we have, for example, interpersonal relations that could be affecting the way the counties are run? Are there challenges, for example, in the way we handle very simple challenges that could be handled even by a mere communication? Now, the kind of model that Camera Africa and Riara University wants to inject in the counties, it's one that will be able, as my colleague said, will be able to bring out information in a more sanctified way, as opposed to hiding information or misconstruing information that would eventually escalate conflicts or tensions that exist at our counties.
Dr. Nditi, as part of your final word, I'm seeing that the workshop targets communication directors, head of press service, as well as public relations staff. Why is this the case?
It's because this is the nerve center. This team of people are the nerve center of communication. Okay. So if they get it right, then we can be sure that all other official professionals and politicians within the counties would be able to resolve some of the challenges that we have.
Okay.
Yep.
James, yes. What about your final take? What to expect during this particular workshop series, and who can actually participate?
I mean, we are targeting, like you mentioned, the county communication directors. Yeah. We're looking at governor's press service. We are looking at county assembly communication staff, because these are the people who communicate county government services. But most fundamentally, this workshop is not only just limited to crisis communication. There are myriads of topics. I mean, for instance, how do you handle the political, cultural dynamics? For instance, we know some counties where some MCAs are village elders. So how does a county communication director speak without consulting the elders? So these are some of the challenges and the dynamics that we'll be exploring.
What are some of the dates we're looking at, and in terms of the program, what else to expect?
It will be from tomorrow and Friday, and we have a very competent team that will be delivering different topics, from handling fake news, from handling broadcast media, from public relations matters, from handling political crisis communication, and of course even situational analysis. I'll give an example. We do remember the attack that took place in Garissa, and we saw a government communication personnel telling on live television that people should not die like cockroaches. Now, as a communication personnel, if you have not undergone through what is crisis communication, then you're likely to bring out an information that could actually hurt so many families, because we do know that people handling crisis communication, they're supposed to be, compassionate, honest, but the most fundamental thing is you're supposed to come forth, give information to the public, let the public trust you, and work with the public to solve that particular crisis.
Okay, thank you. I've been speaking to James Mburu, who's a media research specialist at Camera Africa Consultants, as well as Dr. Francis Onditi, who's the Dean of School of International Relations at Riara University. And like I'd mentioned to you, all eyes are we're focused on, rather, if you'd like to know more about crisis communications, the venue is Riara University starting tomorrow, just to know how you can handle matters communication and get to defend yourselves in instances that you need to. We're taking a short commercial break. When we come back, we continue to follow more developing stories right here on the Daily Brief. Stay tuned.